Hey everybody, my name is Eric and we are back with another Shiny Developer Series live stream. And I've had a heck of a day, kind of decompress from it all. I may have a few hot takes or rants about some of the things I've been going through in the past week or so, but all learning experiences, as you might say. So, All right, so we're gonna continue with our adventures with the shinycal project. I feel like it's getting closer, so I hope that with some more polish, we might be ready for deployment sooner than later, and at least have some version of it out to everybody before I start really overhauling the back end of how the data is being ingested in there and making sure we're augmenting it with the key pieces from the various APIs. So there'll be a lot of cleaning, probably a lot of trial and error tonight, but that's how development goes. So welcome everybody that's joined so far, and let's get right to it. So I'm first going to walk through a couple cool tidbits before we dive into the code, but I'll get to the VS Code stuff shortly. But actually, tomorrow morning, I am actually going to join part of the JuliaCon. For those of you who aren't familiar with Julia, Julia is another open source framework for statistical mathematical computing, and that looks like a lot of fun. I have not used Julia as much as I'd like to, only because I haven't had as much time to learn something new, but one of the more entertaining and fun data science streamers I've been watching lately, Jacob Zelko, he goes by the Cedar Prince on Twitch. He is hosting a live coding Birds of a Feather session tomorrow morning, and he kindly invited me to join and share my thoughts. So I will be attending that tomorrow. Should be a lot of fun to learn from others that are doing some streaming of data science, stats, DevOps, software development, and see what the Julia community is doing, and share learning from each other. So that will be tomorrow, and yeah, looking forward to it. Okay, so a little bit of VS Code stuff set up before I get into this. There's been a couple nagging issues that you might have noticed if you've been watching some of my earlier streams on using VS Code for my R development. It's come a huge long way, but there are some kind of settings or tweaks you kind of have to make to get things kind of similar to what you might be used to in things like RStudio or some other IDEs out there. One thing I have noticed is that copying and pasting code that has indentation, say if you have a for loop or an if-else, and you've indented series of lines, I've fallen victim to this kind of issue that you see on the Stack Overflow post here, is that when you start pasting something, the indentation gets totally out of whack on the lines after the first. And that's just been bugging me for quite a bit. But in one of the answers here, they recommend an extension called Paste and Indent. And apparently what they advertise is that it makes it so that when you copy some code that has indents in it and then you paste it somewhere else, it should preserve it. Apparently there's a Sublime Text plugin or built-in feature called Paste and Indent that this is mirrored after. I have literally just installed it on my setup, and I have no idea if it's going to work, but hopefully it will. That might cure one annoyance. But another annoyance that I definitely have solved by now is the idea of VS Code being very verbose about the linting of my scripts. But under the hood, the extension R for VS Code extension is using the linter package by Jim Hester, software engineer at RStudio. And there are some configurations you can make the linter to make it not run, or at least tweak the options of the various lints that it can do. And you can see it's got a lot of linters that it includes by default. But I've tweaked a couple of them in hopes that it won't make the code harder to read on the stream here. That part I have verified works. I've been working with that for a few days now. So we'll see the fruits of that labor, so to speak, as I start development again. And so let's transition to VS Code, shall we, and start looking at our app again. Let me resize. Well, that did not do what I wanted to do. Hold on here. Try that again. No, that's definitely not doing what I want to do. Oh, I know why. Bear with me. A very odd issue, but actually, we'll keep it like this. Yeah. Actually, it may have been. Yeah. Anyway, we'll keep it like this. Let's actually bring in the chat. There's nobody's commented yet, but we'll have it. We'll keep an eye on this. So go back to this for a second. So, okay. So let's look at the app as it is, and you'll see some things I fixed since the last time we've seen it. So let's first get ours started up here. There we go. And there were a couple things that I kind of banged my head about at the end of the last stream that I have solved, and we'll take a look at those. So first, the times are now actually accurate again. Found out the hard way that the times that are coming back from the Twitch API when you grab the schedule data is in UTC or GMT. And so what I had to do, we may show the code for it in a little bit, is I had to figure out how do I convert that back to, at least for starters, the time zone I'm in. And then it makes more sense with what I see whenever I go on like somebody's Twitch profile and I see their schedule to make sure that times match up, so to speak. So I solved that one thanks to actually knowing what the heck I was getting from the data coming back. But now here's the things I have solved, and I'll show how I did it in a little bit. Let's get some more space here. I have these pop-ups now. And this was largely lifted from the example in the toastui documentation for customizing the calendar pop-ups. And what was happening last time is that when I was clicking the little X to close the pop-up, it wasn't closing it because of some namespace problems. Well, now we close it and it actually closes, so that's good. We got that ironed out. So we now have shown here that we've got the week view shown here by default. I'm going to add a couple kind of quality of viewing enhancements. We're going to make sure that the user can toggle between the week and the day view, and maybe even the month view. Why not? Although I'll think about that a bit, but at least we'll let them toggle between 2 of the 3 views, maybe all 3. We'll get rid of the debugging section here, and then we'll start to figure out on top of the pop-up that appears when they click, what other information do we want to show, and where do we want to show it? Like maybe we will keep something like this on the right, and then they can kind of see information on that side of the window. I don't know yet. I guess we'll try it. This is gonna be kind of a design and polish session, and add some narrative and some styling if we get time up here to let the viewer understand what they're actually seeing here, and go from there. So definitely more of a hands-on view, or hands-on session, if you will. So let's close this, start looking at the code, and see what we want to tweak first. We don't need the dev folder right now. I'm gonna go in the R folder. Right now, everything is in this modcal viewer, and I might split this up. Certain pieces of this to its own module, especially the video stuff. But for now, we'll just play with this as is. I think the first thing we can do is we can tweak that view of the calendar to give the user a choice. Now, where will we want to put that? Probably above the calendar, I'm thinking. So probably do that here. And by the way, I mentioned this in the last stream as well, but I actually turned on the GitHub Copilot stuff because I got into their beta. And I'm kind of, as I do this, I'm curious if it'll actually work with Shiny apps pretty well. I've had mixed success with it, but maybe it'll work. Who knows? Now, what do we want to use as a toggle for the view? Probably thinking a radio button kind of setup. Now, I may start with the default radio button that's in Shiny itself. We'll do radio buttons. Now that's interesting. I don't know if it shows up on your stream, on the viewing of the stream, but it already wants me to add an ID, but it's not in the not with the NS prefix. So we'll politely do our own version of that. I'll view label. I'm curious if we do view. I don't really want to do view here. Oh, thanks. Yeah, actually, let me get the chat on. We have Robbie R. Thanks for joining the stream. He or she says, hello, Eric. I'm just thinking if we can make an automatic schedule. So yes, that actually is part of this. Is that on the back end of this, my plan is to source in data that's automatically scraped every day on like a GitHub action that will pull the Twitch API of everybody's schedule, and whatever the API brings us, we will put into the calendar. So right, that's exactly what we're trying to do. I'm going to show some code for that in a little bit, but we are using the Twitch API to grab that. And my job now, or my task will be after we get the polishing done, is to make that piece automated, and then the app simply just sources that from, say, a GitHub repo or something like that. But that's a great comment. The last thing I want to do is have to hard code the schedules in here. That's just, ain't nobody got time for that, as they say. So let's change the label of this. View type. I'm sure we'll change that later. Now, I always kind of forget what the order of things are. Okay, we got choices. Since we're prototyping for now, we're just going to keep them simple. Day, week, on the big three. Okay, good. I got the IntelliSense there. We'll do selected equal week. I kind of like that. GitHub action or GitHub Copilot thinks I want day, but no, I want week. Nice try. And then I want inline to be true. I want it to be horizontal. Anything else I need to do? I think that's it. Okay. So let's see if that does the trick. Run this again. Got our first error here. I'm sure I've unused argument. What? Oh, I know why. Silly me. Easy mistake though. It's not ID. Well, it's technically input ID, but a lot of people just leave that argument off and then they name the rest. So that did that. That happened to me at work on one of the apps. Oh, there we go. Okay, so looks good to me. For now, we'll probably style it up later on. But now we gotta actually plug it into the back end. I always like to put the UI on there first and then plug it in the back end. And this is gonna kind of be interesting because when they change the view type, this is actually an interesting Shiny issue for those of you that have dealt with Shiny before. If you don't think intelligently about this, when you have an input that influences the display of an output, it could, if it's constructed in the more default way, it may force a total refresh of the entire output. But there are some widgets out there that will let you update the output if it's more about cosmetic purposes, update it via what's called a proxy, which means that on the client side, it'll do the update, but the back end doesn't really change. And if I recall correctly, there is methods for proxy updates with the calendar widget that we're using here. It's toastui calendar. Let me just first we're gonna take a look at the help for that. See if there's anything about I don't think the element ID is what I want. I want to make sure there isn't anything I have to do. See, view is what we're gonna want to change, but I don't want to have to change it here. I want to change it as like a proxy update. So we may need to go into the help for this. So let's dive into the documentation for toastui. They have a package down site. That's always where I go to first. And let's see, they don't talk about proxy in the article here, but they do have a reference. So, okay. And this may be what I want. Cal view, calendar view from the server in a Shiny application. So the idea is this will let me update the view without refreshing everything about it. So let's see how they set it up. If there's any tricks they did here. Input view. They're doing the same thing. Oh, I swear I didn't even look at this example. I'm basically doing the same thing. I could have just looked at that, I guess. So cal proxy view, and that is called my calendar. It's the same as the output ID they gave it. Okay, that's simple enough. And then we just change it there. So you know what? We're just going to copy that since that works for our purposes. And then let's go back and plug it in. Plug it in. Now, where should we plug it in? Probably before. Logically speaking, it'll probably go before all that pop-up stuff. So we'll hang in here. Well, that's not good. The indentation plugin definitely did not work. Oh, that's hilarious. Huh. All right, well, back to the drawing board on that, I guess, unless there's another tweak I need to make in VS Code. So I'll have to look at that later. Okay, so we want, what do we call the input here above? We called it cal view, so that's one modification. We're consistent there. Now I think I'll have to do the NS stuff for this, although we'll see. Sometimes the namespace isn't needed in these proxy things, but I have a feeling it is. So what do I call this output? Cal UI. Okay, so we gotta make sure that's consistent. Alright. Hello, As Bates. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining. We're doing the polishing of the calendar UI and then for shinycal, and then we're gonna hopefully be much closer to an initial deployment so I can actually start showing people what this is who want to see it. Yeah, I understand. Life is life. It's a miracle I can even do these sometimes with the days I have. So thanks for joining whenever you can. It's much appreciated. And we always, I always post the episodes on YouTube afterwards, like the day after. So if anybody misses it live, you can always catch the VOD, because I know on Twitch there is I'm not sure if there's a way to change it, but the VODs on Twitch, there's like an expiration to them, and so they sometimes will just magically vanish. Yeah, you ask and you shall receive. I will put the link to the Shiny Developer Series YouTube channel in the chat, and definitely bookmark this. I have a dedicated playlist to the live streams, and then another playlist for all the interviews that I have. So yeah, definitely check that out. Where was I? Okay, so I think we got the observe event for changing the cal view input, doing the proxy view changing. Ignore init is I think what this means is that this is not going to fire when the input is first rendered, which is what I want. I don't want it to fire yet until they change it. So let's hope I'm right on that. It's been a while since I used a function like this, so we'll give it a whirl and see. Okay, so here it is. Here comes the moment of truth. Well, look at that. That ran just perfect. And in fact, there I am right there. Well, clean up the pop-up stuff in there, but there I am. And then if we go to week, back there, month, back here, nailed it. That was probably the easiest thing we'll do tonight, because the authors of toastui just gave us that proxy method right off the bat. It's definitely kind of on my to-do list of shiny knowledge to figure out what is behind the hood of these proxy objects. They seem like kind of magic to me, but this package does it. DT does it. I can't remember if Reactable does it. Viz Network does it. I have a rant about Viz Network in a little bit if I'm daring to. And Plotly does it. So a lot of the major HTML widgets out there have this proxy method, and it's really cool because I think it does save some processing power on the back end for it. So good stuff. All right, so that one's done. Now, the thing we want to, what I'm going to do a better job of today that I haven't done as much in the actual streams earlier is commit the things that work right away instead of having a big dump of a commit here. The first thing I'll do, I'm going to clean up the VS Code stuff. Oh, I should show the linter thing. Let me show that. This is how I was able to get the default linting in VS Code with R files to not be so noisy to me, or visually noisy. They default to having a line only be 80 characters of width before they warn you of anything bigger than that, so I bumped that up to 120. I told it, do not lint anything that's commented code. And there was also some annoying warnings about objects like not being global or whatever, so I just set that to null. So this has been working pretty well. I'm pretty happy with this. the next thing I want to do later is tell it to ignore certain files that are more for like my prototyping, and I don't want to use them in real practice, but I don't want those linted because they're literally just me hacking away at stuff. So at least I got that solved. So we're gonna commit this stuff first, just get it in there. Same with my dev container. And the key binding thing was supposed to work, but maybe I screwed that up, and we'll just put it in there anyway. Okay. I'm gonna update BS code settings. Get that in there. Let's push that up. Okay. Let me see what I've actually done here. It's a good time to do some hygiene here. What did I change here? Did I change anything here? What's the diff? A white space. Oh, come on. Oh, we need to revert that. That's ridiculous. Let's see if I can tell that to revert. Yeah, discard change. All right. Yeah, this is the big one. I did. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna. This is from my hacking last night to fix the time zone issue. So let me put that, and I'll get to what I did probably in a little bit. Time zone from scheduled call. Okay, we'll get that in there. Okay. So now this is what we just did. Now is we've added a toggle to change calendar view. All right. Okay, let's push those up. And by the way, if you all want to kind of see the repo I'm working on with this, I will put that link in the chat as well. It doesn't have like a link to the app yet because I haven't actually deployed it yet, but if you want to follow along later on, that's where all the code is going. So, okay, back to business. What do we want to do next? I think what we want to do next is tweak the pop-up that's appearing when we click on an entry in the calendar view. So let's go ahead and check that out a bit. So what we're doing now is I basically lifted most of the example from the toastui thing, where they just put some text in the paragraph or p tag in an HTML kind of insert UI thing. But we have, I want to make that more presentable. So we may start taking a look at what that's about. Okay, so I have the very affectionately named input called fancy. That is basically the server-side hook to the client-side click of those calendar entries. And we first remove any that are existing if they had already clicked on one. That's what the remove UI does. It just wipes out the custom UI that was there before. And then this is where, okay, absolute panel. Oh, okay. I've actually never used the absolute panel before. That's kind of interesting. I'm wondering if I can pivot that to something else. Let's take a look at what they do here. I don't want to... Well, oh, okay. Now I kind of know why they do it. So let's look at absolute panel. Absolutely position. So you notice how it has like these top... Whoops. Let me go back that. Top, left, right, bottom. These are literally telling us where to start it, the width and the height of it. Tan, welcome. Glad you could join us. We're doing more polishing of the cow, and I've fixed some annoying issues that you saw at the end of last week's stream. And we're kind of plugging away at some of the polish here. So yeah, welcome back, man. Glad you could join. I'm diving into the code of the pop-up that I lifted from that example last time, and I want to make it better. So it's got a lot of HTML kind of stuff here. I like most of what they're doing, but I'm kind of taking a look at what their styles should be. So it's given some padding, a box shadow. I guess that's just more color stuff. It's doing the position of that little icon of close to make it in the upper right, so I want to keep it that way. And this is where I'm going to divert from their stuff a bit. Yeah, it's all about the front end, most of the front end tonight, but I do want to, at some point, get that GitHub Actions stuff going, and I need to look at a bunch of examples, because as much as I've been using GitHub for a lot of the day job stuff and all these personal projects, I've not done a GitHub Action thing yet. And I think it'll be pretty easy. I just gotta actually do it and just lift a bunch of the code that's in the app and put it in GitHub Action for a separate project or a separate repo to scrape the Twitch API stuff. So that's probably later on. I'm not sure if I'll stream that part because I'm probably gonna absolutely stink at it at first, but we'll see. I don't want to do a center alignment. Let's just see how I change that to left. They'll make it look more, in my mind, normal. We're going to kind of do this a bit at a time, just iterate slowly but surely. Yeah, okay. So now it's left justified. And I've lifted the categories of it. But I guess I need to figure out exactly what I want to show in here. Like, what is the most important thing that the user wants to see when they click one of these? I'm actually not sure. I may try out a couple of things. And I also want to figure out, what do I put like as like whenever they click a particular streamer themselves, what is like the metadata for the streamer themselves versus the metadata around the actual entry itself. So it's kind of like different things. It's like how you can see a profile of somebody, but then you can get more details on the event itself. So I might have to go back and look at my data to see what I've exactly scraped from it. If I need to add anything else to it, that would help out. Okay. So let's get to tweaking that a bit now that we know what we have. I feel like I don't have everything I want in that data. Or if maybe I need to grab it from somewhere else. So what I've done here is based on the ID. Well, actually not that ID, that's yeah, it is that ID. The ID of the stream entry. I subset my kind of overall streamer calendar schedule data based on their information, but I have other data here that has more of the overall meta piece of it, which is CalDF. CalDF is my, right now, the in-package data that I got from the Twitch API with all the Twitch streamers and the YAML file that I constructed to kind of have the metadata around it. I want to see what I have there. and we can kind of take a look at what is in there. So let's stop this and start looking at what I have there. We're just gonna bring this into our session. This should be available to us. Whoops. Let me try that again. Oh my goodness, I think that key binding thing totally borked it. I have to do Control-Shift-V now. Oh wow, okay. Alright, so let's view that and see what we have again. Alright, the new viewer VS Code's pretty snazzy. Let's see what I have here. Yeah, I don't have a lot of good things here. I just have their name. We'll grab their more human readable name, of course. And we could grab their Twitter ID and automatically put a hyperlink to their Twitter account. That might be helpful. But what I want in this set is the description of their stream. And that is probably from a function that I used to grab their information, and I just didn't take it. So I think I have to revise some of my data scraping after all, which I hadn't thought about before, but we will do that. What function was that, or script was that? That was here. We'll get rid of this. We'll keep that around. Get Twitch ID. I think there's I did do stuff with this before. I gotta figure out what I did before. May have to look at my R Markdown files. I did those in the vignettes folder. Streamer info. Alright, we'll get rid of this. Let me see what I did here. Import additional metadata. Actually, the other thing I should do is I should look at the Twitch R package again and see what they do, or what Kyle has put in for additional functions in that package, and I might just be able to leverage here real quick. So I want like the description of the stream, and I thought I'd done that before, but apparently not. Get you don't want all clips. I want something about like the metadata of the user. Let me just look at the index here. Maybe it's get users. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so I think it's my function that I did over here. Way up here. I want to debug this for a second and see what else we can grab from here and archive that. Okay. So we will get that from mine. Oh, yeah. I always forget we have to authenticate first, and I have that code right here. Where do I do that? Yep, right here. Let's load the package up right first. Let's get that going. There we go. Now that should work. Afton, welcome back. Glad you could join us. Doing polishing of the shinycal, and prepare yourselves. I have a couple rants of some of my day today. Some of it's related to shiny, by the way. Love your candid takes on some of the things I've experienced today. It's been an interesting day in the life of a kind of capability engineer slash statistician today. So, all right, there we go. Let's see, where am I? Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have some hot takes, buddy. Just you wait. Just you wait. Okay. So, what is user? There it is. Description. Some of it's beyond. Some of it's related to it. No. Golem's off the hook. Golem ain't the problem. There's some other problems I have to talk about. Don't you dare get an R shiny shirt. Oh gosh. Oh, don't trigger. Don't trigger. Anyway. So I actually did win a free t-shirt, not about shiny though. May get to that later. Okay, so what we want is, right now we've just been taking their user ID. I'm thinking for this, I want to, I knew you would. I want to take more than their ID. I want to take their description and the profile image URL. We might want that for later. Okay, so a little bit of refactoring going on here. So what we want to do now is yeah, this will have to change things up a little bit, but I know where to change it, but that's okay. I think I know what we can do. So we're gonna we better do another import from here. Hydrate time. All right, that's better. All right, we'll get that in there. Although I will namespace it here for now. We just want to not filter. What am I doing? Not filter. It's select. We want ID, description, and we want profile image URL. Okay. We're going to return that instead. All right. Let's see if that does the trick. Check out the browser here. I'm pretty confident I didn't screw that up. We will see. Yes, it's a tibble. Three columns, one row. Perfect. Okay, so that will be part of the other data that we need to want to merge that in with the other stuff, and it'll be repeated rows for the final thing. Actually, it won't be repeated. I think it'll work just fine. So I gotta go to my data raw area. This is the thing that's going to be part of a GitHub action, is all this stuff right here. It's actually not that much code. Once you have the YAML file there and you get authenticated to Twitch and all that good stuff, it's fairly simple at that point. Okay, so this is the part that's going to have to change a little bit. Right now I did it just for ID. That's going to become like a nested data frame inside here. So I think what we'll try to do I'm not sure this will work, and all of you that deal with this kind of data munging, please chime in if I'm doing this wrong. I call this user data, and then we're going to it's basically the same code here, and just make sure that we get like a data frame nested, and then we're going to unnest it afterwards. So I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but we'll start with this. So we're just going to get through this stuff again. All right. Let's see if this bangs in our face. I think that worked. Let's do a glimpse on that. Alright, I'm about ready to give you my first hot take after I glimpse this. Where's user data? Did something screw up there? I see ID. Schedules. Wait a minute. No, there's something else going on here. Okay, let's get rid of it. Make sure I didn't. Oh, it's not found. There was an error somewhere. Okay. I made a new variable by accident. Let's see. Oh, Tremer data. Yeah. Where? What did I do? What did I do? I named it wrong. Oh. Where did I name it wrong? This part's fine. Yeah, that part's fine. Well, just user underscore data. I mean, what's wrong with that? Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. That nonsense. Okay, okay. Yeah, now I got it. I got it now. I got it. This should be the trigger. Yeah, I do blame it for that. It's a little chatty when it tries to autocomplete stuff, so I'm trying my best. There it is, user data, Tibbles. Okay, perfect. And this, we should be able to unnest that. Well, it's kind of funny, you know. I look at everybody doing streams about our data science development. I'm like the only one that's using VS Code with R right now. It's kind of, I guess I can't be too surprised, but I'm kind of hoping to get the attention of the developers of those extensions, and that they would tell me if I did something silly or not. Anyway, let's run this. Okay, that's looking good. I think we're on our way to getting the right. Yes, perfect. We got the ID, the description, profile image URL. Well, honestly, I'm using it just the way that the extension authors have kind of made it. I've done my little tweaks here and there, but I'm getting the hang of it. And the irony of it is that at the day job, the RStudio server that we use for our development is pretty much hampered by the fact that we use a shared file system on the HPC cluster we have. And I literally, I kid you not, when I log into the server and I select my existing session that has a project, kind of like what I'm doing here, I have to refresh the darn browser like 5 times before it really loads. It feels like I've gone back in time like 20 years in the early days of the web on dial-up. And even then, it'll just mysteriously lose the R session and I have to reload again. So when I do this stuff, I'm kind of expanding my horizon, because if I can get the VS Code stuff to work with my day job stuff, then I won't have to deal with that annoying technical stuff. Well, the environment pane's kind of here. If you look here, it's not, I mean, I won't lie, it's not as elegant as the RStudio editor viewer, but you do get your various objects here. And when you click one, you get the viewer depending on the object type. If I have a list here, it'll open up the list view as well. Now they've made the list pretty cool. You can now collapse things with the little carrots here, which is kind of nice. It was kind of like the widget they had before, but this is like a native VS Code version of it now. So it's getting there. It's getting there. Okay, suspense over. It's time for the first hot take. So, about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, I was approached with how we would construct a very, very sophisticated kind of pipeline for. Okay, I gotta watch my words here because I don't want to get canned from my day job. Basically, a way to enhance our team's ability to figure out where do we target our experiments, what sites do we use, kind of thing. And so we have a very healthy mix of machine learning models that help inform that from like a modeling perspective based on publicly available data. And they wanted a nice kind of interface that was geared towards the non-data scientists or the non-statisticians in our group, the informaticists we'll call them, so that they could get what are the best places to go. So it's kind of like a dynamic mapping kind of thing, if you will. And since I knew the models were being coded in R by a separate data science group, and actually we did have some models that were being coded in Python that were more doing some of the stuff, Tan, you were looking at maybe a month or so ago, optimization, like linear algebra, like optimization. But as I thought about the totality of all this and how most of us from the stats and data science side would be actually the ones developing it, it's a no-brainer. It's shiny, of course. And so very early on in the process, I bootstrapped it with Golem, to much surprise of no one here. Because even though I didn't know right away how complex it would be, I just had an inkling it would probably have a lot of stuff in it. Although I was even wrong about that, which I'll get to later. And so I set it up pretty nicely. I've got a nice Git repo. I got a nice README that kind of outlines the structure of it. The idea is that those of us on the team would attack different parts of the app. I was kind of the, what do you want to call it, like the puppet master, the overarching kind of gatekeeper of the repo, making sure that things were in line with the vision that at least I was technically trying to achieve, and I got buy-in from many of my teammates on it. Well, over time, you might call it scope creep, you might call it, getting a solution in without thinking of the long-term ramifications of the solution. There's a lot of inefficiencies in it now. And I do remember at one point where I kind of took my eyes off the pulse of reviewing detailed PRs, like with the way I usually review them. I was getting hammered in other directions, and I would take a look at a high level, and it seemed okay, but little did I realize how inefficient things were becoming. Doing a whole bunch of munging in the app itself when it should have been in functions and all this good stuff. And this is the technical debt exercise. A lot of technical debt has accumulated in this major app. But the train keeps going. Everybody wants new features. Everybody wants new stuff right away. And Isomore, little do you know your statement's going to be prophetic in a little bit. And we got more people contributing to it. And I'll be polite. I'll try to be polite about this. They're expanding their knowledge about Shiny. They're definitely learning. They don't have the engineering mindset for the development of the code. They have the Just get it done quick, and by all means, if you meet the deadline, no matter what, if you meet the deadline, you've got the check, you are all set. This has happened way too long now. And then now there comes a point where they want other apps in this overall suite of things. Some are very small, some are medium sized, but it's all part of this like sophisticated platform. And there's interactions with AWS, there's interactions with other proprietary modeling platforms and stuff. So it's got the app that I'm talking about actually calls these other services, brings data in, pushes data out. It's kind of like at the center of this network of things. And because it's been very difficult for the resources that we have available on it to solve these technical debt issues that should never have been there in the first place if they had followed my directions, but not that I'm bitter or anything. I can tell I'm getting into my mode from this morning. I was told about a week ago that the product owners and some members of the IT group were saying, you know what? Since the people we have just simply aren't experts in Shiny, like the way Eric has said that we need to solve these issues, maybe we should just refactor the whole thing into a Node.js front end and rip out the Shiny stuff. That did not sit well with me, because if we do that, that means people like me, people like my new kind of direct report, who's very talented in R coding as well, and a very talented data scientist. She's been doing great work to shore up some of the tech debt herself, but she can only do so much. I can only do so much. The vendor we're working with, we pay a boatload of money to. They always claim they had good engineers on there, but the engineers they have are definitely not Shiny engineers. They're more of the kind of the cloud engineer type, or customized Java things and all that stuff. So yes, I was told in a group meeting that I was not prepared for at the least about a week or so ago that, yeah, Eric, by the way, there will be some discussions about possibly ripping out or refactoring, the polite word, refactoring the app UI, because we're just having a hard time finding people that are qualified to do it. This is one of those meetings where I wasn't on camera, but literally my jaw hit the floor. I kind of was like, did a double take on it, and I said, could you elaborate more on what you mean by that? And he said, well, nothing's been done yet. We just wanted to throw it out there. And I said, well, I'm happy to talk about it. Just keep me plugged into it. And they didn't really plug me into it again until this morning, when we actually had a meeting that was titled app name / second app name / third app name refactoring. So I was like, okay, this is it. I was prepared for this time. So this is early in the morning. This is like my first meeting of the day. So I'm kind of like thinking about this last night. Okay, how do I say this about making people angry, but just be honest about it? But being at the role that I've been in for a while, being involved with producing production grade applications or packages or toolkits, pipelines, whatever you want to call it, that have been used in very, very, very high profile situations. I have a bit of experience in this area, and to be perfectly honest, some of the people involved in this team just don't have that experience, and that's not a knock against them, it's just the way it is. So I wanted to say it in a way that I could sound technically sufficient, technically speaking, justify my reasoning, and not blow a gasket at the same time. Because I was pretty peeved about the way this all went down. Because I was the one that they called upon to help lead the design of this, lead the direction technically of how this should work. And am I biased a little bit? Sure. Yeah. I mean, I love R. I love Shiny. I love what it can do for data science. But I always said I want to augment it with other things if it gets the job done. That's why for this other optimization piece that's done with Python modules of solvers that I don't even know how to pronounce the names of, I'm good with it. We just call it as an API and pull it back in. I'm good. Perfect. I have no objections to that. But when you talk about refactoring an app that probably is now 10,000 plus lines of code, at least 20 modules, and some of them you can kind of tell who's coded what, because I'll be honest with you, my modules are pretty well coded. The other ones have a lot of wrangling, a lot of nonsense happening, and I told them we need to refactor that part out into functions so that those could be offloaded from the app in the future. The app should be just a window to pull this away or plug it in. But okay, fast forward to this morning. I came in technically sound, but the good news is that in these situations, I don't know what it is like at the jobs you have, it always pays to have some allies from other groups that kind of get your point and you can be a good sounding board of. And there's one from IT that he and I, like, we're very cool together. He has great ideas. I have great ideas. And he actually welcomes it when I come in with the blunt approach that I came with this morning. In fact, I warned him. I'm like, I'm going to be pretty blunt in this discussion, right? And he's like, bring it on. I'll be just as blunt as you are, because he wasn't happy how this went down either. So I came in with my technical arguments. I had said that I've heard a lot of the feedback, but I will say that at this stage in the game, the amount of work it will take to first refactor everything into the Node.js, JavaScript, React, whatever, throw the buzzwords at it. That work is not going to be trivial in and of itself. And then the issue is we're going to be hampered with the ability for us on the stats and data science side that are close to the business users to act on the feedback that we get. And now the app's being used more and more. There's feedback coming in every day. So we have to have all the sprint meetings, the backlog, Jira boards, all the fun stuff. So we have to figure out how do we manage that. But if we can't contribute to actually solving those problems, which it would be, unless they want me to become a JavaScript Node.js ninja, which my boss at this time does not want me to do. And frankly, I don't either. I want to stick with R because it helps me do my actual other parts of my job. I just said how us and the team would be limited in how we could contribute to this. And given the modeling infrastructure is already based in R with a little bit of Python, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So then they tell me, oh, Eric, actually, you make great points. We were thinking about those smaller apps to start with, not so much the app you're talking about, which was not told to me before this morning. Like, I thought they wanted to rip it all up. Although they said they want to reevaluate it in the future, so I have to be ready for that at some point. But I was able to, at least for the time being, put off any possible refactoring of the app as it is. But I was quick to say, though, we still need to solve that technical debt stuff, because no matter what happens to the app in the future, it is hampering our ability for performance. It's hampering our ability to make changes. And there's one part of the app where there's like a big sidebar of filter stuff. And when they select like we'll call it a therapeutic area, it takes like 15 seconds to populate the outputs. And that, because it's like a whole mess of server-side UI outputs, render UIs, and then all the dplyr munging inside it. This stuff should be offloaded. That stuff should be cached in a database, because we're using a darn database as it is. That stuff should be part of the database, and then we just simply bring that in. But anyway, okay. So I was able to get kind of what I want out of that discussion. And I said for these smaller apps, which I haven't been a part of, they've just been kind of taking the inspiration of what I do with the big app, and they kind of translate some smaller shiny apps of it. I said, hey, those little ones, have at it. Make a Node.js front end. If you can ensure that if I give you an API that runs the R code to give you the inputs you need in this smaller app, I can do it via a package called Plumber, or just make a custom in my own way. And then this little app can simply just call that API and bring what you need. You do whatever the heck you want to that UI stuff. They were like, yeah, that sounds like a plan. So that'll be my next objective, is to be involved in the early discussions of that, not the late ones, the early ones, so that I know just what do they need into those smaller apps, that I can start making, or at least working with people on making a Plumber API to do that our stuff and have it served in a agnostic way, if you will. So that was a heck of a situation. That was a bit anxiety inducing, but with being at the company for now 12 years, I've now started to feel comfortable with giving like my honest feedback. I still have to catch myself from sounding like too much of a grump about it, but I was even toned. Like I said some pretty sharp things, but I didn't like sound like I was like attacking people or anything. But it sounds like people that my direct report that was on the call, just kind of on standby, she had told me that her jaw dropped at some of the things I was saying and how blunt I was about it. But I was like, sometimes you gotta be. So yeah, good point is, yeah, Isomore, it's great when you have allies in these other groups, because then you feel like you're not on your own island as you're telling about these. It really helps you feel like there's some understanding there, and they understand the tech stuff. Like, the product owners are brilliant people, but they just don't understand the tech stuff behind this. They don't understand how we have to really set things up effectively with the interactions of AWS, with the interactions with these other pipelines, with Lambda, with Postgres. I mean, I'm just throwing all the things that go into this app. You need people that understand that to really get why you're saying the things you're saying. So we do have that. It's just you have to have meetings to really clarify it, and I had meetings all day today, so it was a little winded after that one. But anyway, so I'm in a good spot now, but getting there I was a little nervous about. So there's your first epic rant of tonight. We might have another one about Viz Network. We'll see how much energy I have at that point. Okay, so back to this. So we've got the user data, we've unnested it, and now I can probably comment this out, because that was the old way of doing it. We've got ID now, I think. Well, now I forgot what it looked like. Silly me. Better do that view again just in case. Oh, streamer data. Let's view streamer data. User ID and ID. Okay, so it's called ID. I think that's what we want. Yeah, ID. So the rest of this should just work. Let's run this just in case. It should just work, and then we'll have those additional columns after that. Okay, that's good. Yeah, there's some, I put some messages here for now, but I'm going to take those out and put them in a proper log later. So now we can view that again. Make sure I don't have any regressions here. Schedule data is a nested data frame. Videos data. Right now it just takes their latest video, but there was stuff that Tan, you were talking about that we might be able to do when they click on a name of somebody that's actually live at the moment, that maybe view their live feed. Maybe later, not so much tonight. But we got what we need. I think that's good. Let's just overwrite the current cache version of it. Good. And now, way back to where we were before my epic rant number 1, we go back to the viewer, and let's start changing that pop-up stuff. Yes, Tan, it is just like this with the shiny stuff. The IT department that we work with, and the vendor that is giving us a few of these data science counterparts and their version of IT developers, They're all saying it's just, oh, Eric, the things you said that this app needs, it's just hard for us to find. And we got to think of the support of it later on. And the support being that when we somehow make it a stable state, that somebody's going to be able to fix bugs if users find it. Yeah, I'm not optimistic about that part at all. Because usually for the other apps I do, where I've been the lead developer and the product owner, guess who supports it? Me. Because their IT group can't find anybody for it. But the frustrating thing is, you could say that maybe we are unicorns, I don't know, but guess what? There are about 2 or 3 vendors based in Europe, 2 of which I regularly talk to for the Shiny Dev series of all things, that would be perfect fits for something like this. But at least in my org, it's very difficult to qualify vendors for these things. It is just, it's just procurement nonsense. I'll give you a hint. You know one of them pretty well by the packages he makes. Yeah, the second one. Although Jumping Rivers, I have thought about them too. I haven't had as much interaction with them, but Absalon and Think are the 2 that I've talked with regularly quite a bit. Yeah. So that's the breaks. I do know for sure that Absalon has actually helped other life science companies. It's even on their website. And they're giving a webinar. I think some of you may have saw my retweet about that. They're giving a webinar with our studio on production Shiny app issues and hints on that, which I'm definitely going to attend, because that's right up my alley these days. So that will be fun. I think it's in mid-August. Yeah. I'm actually hoping to get one of their developers. I probably shouldn't name drop them, but Curtis and I have been thinking about getting one of them on the dev series for a more in-depth look at what some of the apps they made for the Shiny contest, and frankly their experience with working with industries, whether it's my industry or other ones, and kind of the life of a vendor that's helping with Shiny development. I think that's a story we don't often hear about. That's one of the reasons I do the dev series, is to highlight these things. So maybe that'll be in the works for later this year. Hint, hint. All right, back to the calendar here. So Platinum's asking, do you ever go back to RStudio these days? Do you mean the IDE itself? For my day job, I kind of have to, because on our Linux server infrastructure at the day job, I can't just like get VS Code installed easily. I have to use like a stripped down version that doesn't even support the R extension that I have to install to make all this work, what you're seeing here. But I have 2 methods of using RStudio. One is on a server environment, which unfortunately is the one that I mentioned earlier that times out at the most inopportune times. The other way is to connect to a remote desktop session that gives you a GUI on one of our Linux servers, and then you can boot up the desktop edition within that. But then it's like you have this window to the desktop session. It's kind of fuzzy. It's not quite as, say, native feeling as the browser version. So there's trade-offs, but I know what I have to do to have workarounds. It's just annoying as heck sometimes. But again, it's not even so much the fault of RStudio itself. It's more the fault of our file system just being darn cranky and slow. And nothing I can do about that. So I just have to play with what I can deal with. But if I could get it containerized like I do what I'm doing right now tonight, and what I've been doing in the past, like however many streams I've done, then that's all a moot point, because then it's all local containers, the same code, just run in a container instead, push that up to GitHub, I do a deployment. The deployment doesn't know heads or tails of how it was developed. It just takes the code as is and that release and sends it to Shiny Server Pro. So that's my hope anyway. But there are odd differences between what I do here on my personal machine here and what I do on the work Mac that they gave me with like the inside stuff. So I have to figure out a way to make that more seamless. So, okay. Okay, so we're gonna put a browser in here and we're gonna see if I can get stuff from that CalDF based on who they clicked on. That's my hope right now. All right, where am I? Okay, let's run the app again. Yeah, that's true. I did run the help run the stat computation lab in grad school when I was getting my PhD, and it was cool to have the pseudo powers, if you will. All we had to make sure of is that each student could connect to these servers both literally locally in the machine with their user account, but also when they get home or their apartment, connect to it via SSH and then launch their simulations or whatever code they needed to run, like in a terminal. So I just had to make sure all that worked, but we had a hodgepodge of Linux servers and Solaris machines and all that fun stuff. So yeah, good times. But that was a long time ago, buddy. Long time ago now. I'm an old. If I go by Afton's scale, maybe I'm 600. She's 400. Haha. Oh, that's interesting. So you have a map. Yeah, but I'm 600. So there's a map in my city for tracking where and when street cleaning is happening. Oh, isn't that cool? You could tell it's shiny, huh? That's neat. Yeah, it's kind of cool when you can pick that spot up. That's actually another cool story, is my boss, or one of my former bosses, is helping with a lot of the COVID stuff that we're doing in research, and he found an app online, and he wasn't sure at the time, but he had an inkling it might be shiny, but of course he asked me as like the resident shiny person at the day job to check it out and if I could tell. Well, it was an easy, obvious thing because it was written in BS4 Dash. You could tell by the layout it was BS4 Dash. And I was like, hey, I actually use this for my major production app too. Yeah, it's definitely shiny. And I get a hint that he wants me to make something like that for our company too. And I'm like, uh-oh, what did I just say? Sometimes I can't help it. I like to tell it like it is, but sometimes that gives me more work, if you will. Okay, where were we? Whoa, Tan, you got carded. Wow. I don't know if you feel happy or sad about that. Let's see. Now let's see what I have here. Got the ID and schedule. This is one thing about the debugger. I'm not as fancy with the debugger right now, but we should have. Okay, we got schedule right now. Schedule is a data frame with just one row and 18 columns. Oh, it's got the description already. Oh, that's perfect. It's already got it. Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course, a mask. Yeah. Yeah, one thing, when people hear me talk without video, they definitely think I'm, I'll just say politely, a senior person. So, okay, we've got what we need here. So we've got the description, the profile image. I want to put that description in this pop-up bubble just to see what it looks like. I don't need this stuff. Okay. Let's see. Maybe I just see what the description looks like right now. Where are we looking at sketch/description? We'll just see how it looks like when we render this. See if we have to do any anything special to it. Okay, we'll quit that. I need to get better with this debugging stuff. At some point I will. In VS Code, I mean. I know how to do it in our studio like the back of my hand. Okay. So it's there. It's definitely there. Not very formatted well, but it's got the description there. Now I gotta figure out how what I want to do with the rest of the information. So I want the starting and ending for sure. I just want to format it slightly better. Maybe the categories is a bit much. I was just testing stuff with the categories. We don't really need it here. Alright. Yeah, me too, Isomar. That's always kind of... I had the same feeling back in the old days with ggplot too. So I've been using R for... Let's do the math here. 2005. About 16 years. And when I was just getting into R and I would see a manuscript that used ggplot2 like around that 2007, 2008 time frame, I was always like geeked out. I was like, they're on the cutting edge. Thanks, Tan. Don't know why that. Well, unless there's something else going on. Thanks for checking that out for me. But yeah, I had that same feeling with ggplot2 stuff, so all good, all good. Okay, let's see if we can format this a little better. Maybe I do need to put the starting from and starting to into a better layout. But we're gonna rely on my Brenda glue package to completely format this. Alright, the wildcards for this. Screen. Well, Atom was like it came before VS Code. That was from GitHub at the time before they were bought by Microsoft. And I think just when that acquisition took place, just VS Code became the next generation of Atom. Like, I mean, honestly, that's where most of the community is going from software development. So I'm just kind of hopping on that train and kind of seeing where it takes me. Okay, so that. Now I need to populate these objects. Ah, don't do that. I always get mad when it does that. Well, look at that. The GitHub Copilot actually helped me there. And knew to do user ID as user $, or schedule $user ID. Let's see if it does it with this. Look at that. I don't know if you're seeing this, but the Copilot actually knew what my variables were called. That's when it pays off. Oh crap, I just messed it up. Okay, there we go. I think that will do it. That's both, it's like it's good when it works well, but then I've seen cases where people have shared online. It does some pretty gnarly stuff. So you gotta watch it a little bit. I can take that out. I'm probably gonna take that out at some point, the categories, but let's just see if this part works. All right. Here we go. Well, other than changing the format of the timestamp, we're in a pretty good spot. Got the description. I mean, we'll have to do more styling to it, of course, but that is very neat. Yeah, I need to work on the command stuff. I have a few like custom shoutouts here. that I've done just custom, which probably wasn't that efficient, but there's yours. And this is Afton. And I don't think Nick is here. I would shout him out. I think he's still doing his stream. But I got a few more in there. I'm going to add more as I go. But I'm still learning the ropes on that stuff. Okay, so this is cool. Maybe we can clean up the time stamps a little bit, because we don't need the date showing here, right? We just want the time. Well, I tell you what, I mean, I'm sure, at least for me, one of the impetuses of these has been first just seeing what others, even outside of R, have been doing with software dev development in the yeah, I'm not sure what happened with that mod stuff. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, for me, it was seeing what others in the development communities were doing with this. And usually I've been an audio person, but there's just something about visually walking through the development of these where you just get inside the story, if you will, or inside the code, where it's not just you're seeing somebody's finished product. So I figured if once I figure out the tech behind it, which some of you know I've been investing a lot of time in the tech behind this, what you're seeing here today. Once I figured that out, it was just a lot of fun. So once you get everything set up, it's pretty fun. So I mean, that's kind of what yeah, Tan, exactly. Now I got this set up in such a way where once I click a few buttons on this handy little stream deck here, and I get my VS Code window up and all that, it's just talking shop and having fun and having some epic rants from time to time, I guess. But speaking of streaming stuff, I told this before a lot of you joined, but I'm actually going to be joining a cool session at the Julia Con tomorrow morning, where they're talking about live coding, outreach, and beyond. But the leader of this session is Jacob. His last name, but he goes by the Cedar Prince on Twitch. So I've actually watched some of his streams. Zico, Zico. He's an awesome guy. I love watching his stuff. But he told me this was coming up, and he wanted me to be a part of it. I'm like, heck yeah, I'll do it. So that's tomorrow morning. This time zone is not my time zone. For me, it's 8:30 to 10. I'll put this in. I'll put the actual main site in the chat here. Y'all want to look at the schedule. But yeah, I'll be joining that live coding session and sharing my thoughts, and it kind of is a nice follow on to what I talked about at UseR this year about using things like OBS to level up your media content creation with R and data science. So I'll be sharing my tidbits about that. But much like what you're saying, Tan, it's really fun to do it. You learn a lot of things just by sharing what you know, and obviously you all have been helping me out immensely with some of the hints that you've given me in my code development. So it's been a lot of fun to do it. So yeah, I'll be on that tomorrow morning, which is why I probably won't be on too much longer here. We just want to tie up some loose ends here. Let me work on the formatting of the timestamp, because we don't want the date repeated again. They know exactly what day they clicked on, so we just gotta. Yeah, I know it's yeah, for me it's I'll probably get intruded upon by the little ones, but I don't think I'll actually be on camera for it. I may just join their Discord audio and just share my thoughts there for sure. So it was a little earlier than I expected, but I guess that's kind of a good thing, because had it been later in the day, I wouldn't be able to do it because of the day job stuff. So I can at least take an hour off in the early part of the day job and then when that's done, I have to immediately connect to the work stuff. So yeah, the joys of balancing these kind of things with work. Okay, polishing the timestamp, and then we're gonna call it a night, I think. Where do I want to polish it? I don't like polishing it directly in glue. I want to maybe just do it from here. I want to get it to like the way the either lubricate or clock. The package I'm using for a lot of the time stuff here is called clock, to get this back in working order. We're gonna pull this from here. Yeah, clock. It's a cool package, by the way. I'll put a link to it in the chat if you all want to look at it. It came out earlier this year. I think it's been in the works for a while, but it's from Davis Vaughn at our studio, who is on, I believe, the Tidy Models team. But it's kind of like a more up-to-date way of working with date times in R. So I've been playing with it a bit, and I was able to finally get it to the way I want. So what I want to do now is I want to figure out, okay, what do I do to get just the time out of this? And now I have like two things here. I've got start time and I have something called start. So I need to kind of see which one we work with. So I probably have to fire this up again and start going to town on it. Okay. Alright, we're here. So I'll pull this now. And then we also have one called start. Let's compare the two. So start time looks like that. Start looks like this. I need to look at what types are they. So I forgot which one's a character and which one's not. Oh, they may be both character. Let's see. Yeah, they're both character. Okay, so we gotta somehow get the time component out of it. Oh, that's right. You're on. Yeah, Afton, that is really early for you. My goodness. The joys of time zones, right? So let's look at the clock package and see if we can find a function just to get the time component out of a date time. They might have vignettes here. Let's look at the vignettes here. Examples and recipes. This is a pretty... Oh, I hate this. This is another downside, is that the viewer of the vignettes in VS Code is like... You can see it. I don't want it to be like this kind of formatting. So we have to just go to the website directly. I kind of thought that would happen. If they have examples of this. This is more about kind of like the management of these. I just want to get the time out of it, maybe parsing. So a way I can just get the time component out. Yeah, the browser statement, it's literally my... No matter what I do with Shiny, it's always the one I go back to. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is where I don't know if I'm just not searching for it the right way, but I just want the time. I literally just want the time from a date timestamp. It's gotta be a better way. Get something. Maybe I need to look at all the get functions. I don't want to set the time zone. Get year, get month. So they gotta get month, get hour, get second, get... I hope there's something better for this. Am I gonna have to parse all three? Yeah, that was actually something I was, when I had Hadley on episode, what was it, 19? I forgot what it was. We were talking mostly about mastering Shiny, but I wish I was able to get him to do some live coding on that, but it was one of those things where he only had an hour to do, and I know he's a busy guy, so I was like, I don't want to ruffle the feathers, so to speak, but it would have been fun to see how he tackles that stuff. So yeah, that would have been a good time. Okay. Boy, I feel like there's got to be something better than this. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to look at the Lubridate package and seeing if they have a method that can just get the time component out. Gosh. Oh, if he signs up for Slice next season, that will be just crazy. Oh, HMS. I feel like that might be what I want. Let me see. Well, but they kind of... not quite. Oh, I feel like this should be easier. Maybe I'm just not doing this right. Well, I guess we can give it a shot. This will probably fail. Yeah, I have to probably change the format of it. Maybe start will play nicely with it. No, that won't either. Okay. No, that's probably not gonna work here because that's expecting just the time, right? It's not expecting the date time. DMY. This is gonna bug me that I can't solve this because I feel like it's there should be an easy way to do this. In either the package, like, what am I not seeing here? FAQ? No. Bad version. Use... Well, yeah, I wonder about that. I might have to resort to that if there's no, like, little method of giving a full day timestamp, just getting the time out of it. Like, it should not be that hard. It should not be that hard. Or at least give us a parameter to return out only the stuff we want. Let me just see if there's any stuff here. No, not really. I may resort to that. I absolutely might resort to that. It is very odd that it won't let me have it. Yeah, I mean, right now, what they look like... Whoops, not that. It looks like this. So I guess I strip out the date component, and I kind of know what sequence that is, because it's always going to have the... Because date parse... Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking about, is I want just the time. We can try. Yeah, let's see, do they have a time parse? It's ridiculous. Yeah, they don't. That's exactly what I'm hoping for. Now there's daytime parse, yeah, that's fine, but I don't want, when it does this parsing, it's gonna give me the full daytime. I just want the time of it. Oh, you're right. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. All right. Always forget that. Want the date time of it. Or just the time. I just want the time. That's all I want. Yeah, that's where we're all looking at this right now. We're seeing if there's anything we're missing here. It's like, there's got to be something. We'll look in here. Make sure there isn't anything that looks familiar. Don't want to do any arithmetic. I literally just want the time. Now there's this as zoned time thing. We can try that. Oh, Tan, you might have the solution. We'll just try this first and see. Yeah, okay, let's go with what Tan has there. Alright, you've got as date time. Alright, start, and we'll pipe that into the HMS package. Do I have that? Oh, I hope I do. Oh, okay. Let's install HMS. Alright, we got it. Moment of truth. Bam. Got it. Got it. Okay, so we're going with it. We're gonna do, okay, let's get that in there. Whoops, forgot I can't do that when I'm in the browser. All right, just do that for end as well. We may give the user an option later to change like how that time is actually formatted, but for now we just want to proof of concept this thing. Okay, so in that case my paste become my glue string. We don't have to you can just call these start time and end time. We don't need this anymore. And then we get rid of this, and then we should have it. Alright. That was a lot of fun. Oh, we might have another candidate. Isomor says we just get hour and get minute. Yeah, that could work too. Well, we may try both and see which one we like better. All right, give it a shot. Uh-oh. Oh, did I... What did I do wrong there? For X, or did I not change code? What did I do wrong? Wait, or was it... Huh. Okay, I thought that was, I had that. Let's just go back in the debugger and find out. I must have done something, some shortcut there that I didn't anticipate. Alright, try that again. Okay. So that's weird. Why did it work before? What did I do before? Well, start in this case is, oh wait, what am I doing? Oh, silly me. It's from Sketch. Oh, okay, yeah. I had made that variable in the debugging session. That's why. Would have been nice if it just said, I can't find that variable, but... Alright. There we go. There we go. And that should be good there. Okay, we'll just go with this for now. Oh, not that, not that. Okay. Get rid of this. Okay, well maybe the Starfox soundtrack will give me good luck with this. We'll see. Love it, love it. Okay. Yes, okay, well... That, at least we've got it in the timestamp now. And by the way, if you ever want to know where the music comes from, this is it right here. If you ever want to check that out on your own, that's what I use when I actually get time to actually develop stuff instead of being in meetings most of the day. All right. So that's, sure, the layout's a little utilitarian, but it's definitely getting somewhere, and we got the toggles working here. We get the, whoops, got the push up here, we got the month view. We default to week, so that part's working well. And then, because I'm on the VS Code version, you don't see that video player below, but if I put this out to the browser, then you would. But I'm wondering, maybe I put the video over here, or I'm gonna get rid of this section here just to see what it looks like when the calendar has the full width, and then we'll maybe style it up next time. So that right sidebar was more, or that right side was just more for debugging purposes. Yeah, we don't need this. That was all that fun like a month ago about that shiny input binding with the cal package, or the toastui package, and we finally solved it. Oh, Platinum's asking, it seems you're not using R6. So yeah, that's actually something I want to learn about more, because Shiny is based in R6, and I just haven't really used it very much for my objects. But it's on my list of things to get better at, is the whole object-oriented paradigm with R6, because you can do a lot of cool stuff with it. But I've always been using like the S3 methods most of the time, or just like making utility functions and just passing the inputs back and forth from them. But yeah, that's something I want to pursue further for sure. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Cool, we got the full real estate of the window here. Well, speaking of R6 and modules, I'm not sure if you know about this, Platinum, but a package that I had heard about from kind of my connections in the industry when it was first being developed is called Tiny Modules. Let me put that link in the chat. I'm actually thinking about this, to try this out on a future stream and see what it's like to create modules with this approach. Oh, you did look at it when it was first released. Yeah, that was about the time it was released, because I was, yeah, David, wait, no, this one's not, oh, David's a contributor. Yeah, David Grandin. Yep. So the main author, Mustafa, I've talked to a few times, and I know almost everybody on this list. The top 4 I definitely know very well. So that's cool stuff. But I've heard it's gotten better. I just haven't tried it yet. So yeah, cool stuff there. Let me see. Yeah, me too. Like I said, I haven't. The funny story was I had gotten wind of it because the authors of that knew I was going to do a poster session at RStudio Conf that year about, guess what, the Shiny community. And they were like, oh, we're finally about to release this package. Maybe you could put a plug for it. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So that became part of my poster, was just advertising the raw of this package. And they had all their like cheat sheets on print that they were handing out people in front of my poster. It was kind of like I was a unofficial spokesperson for them. But I know them pretty well, so it was cool to have that time. Yeah, fun times at that conference. Wow, those have been. You know, some people in sports think of the Super Bowl as like the highlight of the year, but for me, it's always been RStudio Conf has been like the peak of my year when we would have those in person. So hopefully next year, depending on how things shake out, we'll be able to do that again, because it was a kind of our life-changing experience, if you will, to be at those all. Yeah, we'll see. You know what? Wow, I've been going on strong for about 2 hours here. I think we'll probably cap it there, but honestly, we're, even its utility state, other than maybe some minor cosmetic things where I might put like a message at the top and obviously call it something different than this at the very beginning, I'm actually pretty darn close to a real deployment of this. And to be able to actually show people where this is, instead of just people just watching my stream and wondering, what is it? So a few little things I'll tweak here and there, maybe like adding custom colors to different entries and things like that. But we're in a pretty good spot. And I think with the enhancements we made, we'll be in good shape. So before we get out of here, I'm going to commit my recent changes. Oh yeah, you should make claim to your colors. Throw that on my GitHub issue. Let me see. Change function to grab additional user metadata. Yep, okay, so that's what that one's about. Updated. Fresh streamer data. Get that in there. What did I do? Oh, I forgot the. Oh, I already staged it. Okay. And then here we've eliminated that UI widget, and then or that UI portion, and then the rest of it is all the. Okay, we'll just say we enhance pop-up window. Good enough for me. Oh, I forgot to stage it. There we go. I'm getting used to the VS Code like GitHub or Git Pane. It's a little more utilitarian, but it gets the job done. All right, we've got that on GitHub now, so that is good. Well, so I guess what I'll do to close this out is, like I said, I'm getting really close to getting this, I would say, initially deployed. So if you have any feedback at all, what you want to see in this, especially those of you that are obviously doing streams like me, throw an issue on the issue board, and I'll definitely have that in my back pocket as I think about the deployment of it. But I just want to get something out there so that I can start spreading the word and making it easy for people to find all the cool streamers. Yes, you should, yeah, use that issue board, claim the colors. In fact, I'll start the issue now. If you have a favorite color, comment below. All right, there you go. You get the claim on that. Cool. So yeah, I think that'll be very helpful if you all have things you want to see in this. Like I said, the video thing I'm going to tweak a little bit.
Thank you for the follow, Mugl_I.
Oh, thank you for the follow, Mowgli. If I'm pronouncing that right, much appreciated. So yeah, feel free to throw any thoughts on there. I'm going to do a lot more styling of it later on, kind of give it a nice little theme. Oh, Nick, okay, yeah, I wasn't sure how long he was streaming tonight. Good stuff. He's feeling better, and an epic episode of Slice last night. That was fun stuff to watch. All right, well, I think that will probably do it for me. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be part of that Julia Khan Birds of Feathers session about streaming data science content. If you want to watch me or hear me there, I'm not sure if you actually see me there, but you'll definitely hear me. Some of my feedback on that. And if things go well, I hope to do another kind of more ad hoc-y kind of stream later this week or in the weekend. I don't know yet. Gotta work some stuff out, because that will be the only way if I can get to the affiliate status, if I can actually start streaming more than once a week. That I have all the other criteria basically checked off. That's like the last one, so just got to get those in there. So all right, well, if you want to follow me, you see all the social media stuff below. Yeah, it should be fun. It should be a lot better than what I went through today, for sure. My epic rant before, my situation with the industry stuff. Hopefully that gets smoother too. And yeah, I'm sure I'll see you all around. Normally I try to find somebody in the raid, but since I have to be up probably at 8 o'clock tomorrow, I'm probably gonna have to go to bed now. But thanks so much for joining, everybody, and for both those who have been there before and the new faces, I really appreciate it. Send me feedback anytime on Twitter. If you have ideas that you want me to stream about, I'm always responsive there. And keep on the lookout. I got some cool plans for the interviews for the next Shiny Dev Series episodes, and including somebody that has a lot of authority on the Shiny stuff. I'll just say that. Okay, well, with that, I will bid you all a good night, and take care, and get some good rest, get plenty of water, and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, everybody. Thanks again.